Alberta Primetime with Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Primetime. Ahead tonight, an Albertan's efforts to help people with disabilities in conflict zones. But first, from the trade war impact on travel to removing barriers between provinces, the revival of a patriotic video, and rebranding the Golden Arches. Let's kick off the program with our Primetime This Week panel. And joining us this evening, Darren Krause, editor and founder of Livewire Calgary, and Bob Sumner is a former 30-year news veteran, now a director at Parker PR in Calgary. Good evening to you both. And let's begin with the turbulence of a trade war triggered by the U.S., the latest development of which being a 30-day pause for tariffs on Canadian goods covered by the USMCA trade deal. And Albertans are showing their displeasure with how Canada is being treated by the Trump administration.
Nobody wants to go to the States. There are a few people with maybe unlimited resources that it doesn't really bother, but I believe that it's not even just because of the dollars, as people do not want to support.
A similar story for travel gurus in Edmonton. Some have outright canceled trips, others are seeking options should the situation worsen.
A lot of patriotism. I feel like they're trying to support Canada, which is great. That's what we want to hear. But we're getting different feedback from different clients about why they don't want to go to the U.S.
There are 13 direct flights from Edmonton to U.S. destinations, and airport officials say passenger numbers have already decreased slightly, a situation they continue to monitor.
While travel sentiment may be changing for people, the importance of flying nonstop and still using these U.S. destinations is key. We know that flights take a long time to get and be successful, and we know that if we don't use them, there's a potential that the flights could go away.
Airport officials say anytime a destination is lost, it can take years to get it back. Darren, WestJet indicating there's been a shift in bookings to Mexico, to the Caribbean. How much of a message is there in what appears to be a wave of economic patriotism?
I think there's a pretty strong message that I think a lot of leisure travelers are making, including myself. We're putting off plans to go to Boston this summer to watch a baseball game because we're unsure of the economic climate, the political climate, and who knows where the Canadian dollar is going to be. So we are one of those people who is making a specific decision not to go down to the U.S., largely because of the turmoil that's going on. And I think you'll start to see a little bit more of this. And where I think it ultimately could have a positive impact is, maybe I'm going to go and see my friend in Halifax. I've never been to Halifax before. So maybe we'll do something like that and you'll see more interprovincial tourism or even more backyard day trips for Canadians.
Bob, what strikes you about the willingness of some, Krause family included, to actually cancel trips, forego even deposits?
Yeah, I think it sends a really strong message. And I just heard this morning on the news that we would be considered illegal aliens down there now if we travel into the U.S. We would have to register and submit to fingerprints. So I would align the Sumner family is not going to America. I usually do a motorbike trip down there, but I think it'll just be BC, beautiful highways, maybe up north to Jasper and do some interprovincial tourism and, just stomp around Alberta, as they used to say. Because I wouldn't go down to the U.S. right now. It's completely unhinged.
Now, Darren, you've written about the response of consumers and the business community in Calgary. What's the retail sector reflecting about the impact of this trade war?
Well, I think first off, when we separate the retailers from the consumers, I think a lot of consumers, and I'm sure you have reported on this already, a lot of consumers are making that made in Canada or shop local sort of decision when they're making their buying decisions. But there's still a lot of uncertainty with retail shops, especially small retail shops. And the uncertainty is largely driven by the fact that we don't know who, what, when, how, where, why any of the tariffs are going to come in, because it seems to change every day. But I think a lot of small businesses, especially those who can be a little bit more nimble, are capitalizing on the buy local sentiment, and they're also finding different ways to safeguard their businesses from any significant impact, and that could be anything from finding local buyers to finding new suppliers or wholesalers.
Well, some good news in that for sure. All right. Well, as Canada-U.S. trade relations falter, momentum is building behind efforts to remove red tape and reduce interprovincial trade barriers.
Regional autonomy is great, but then because every jurisdiction is allowed to be so different, it makes things incredibly difficult when they come to the negotiation table.
While governments are talking about this, in general terms, the business community claims fewer barriers could boost the Canadian economy by over $200 billion. And the head of CN Rail says lessening reliance on trade south can't hurt in the long run.
We could be looking back from a spot where we've strengthened our borders, where we've improved our internal trade, and we've diversified our trade with other nations.
Doing away with provincial protectionism comes as welcome news for some truck drivers who spend long hours at southern border crossings.
I'd rather stay in Canada, to be completely honest. I want to help build our own country.
The Canadian Trucking Alliance indicated this week many fleets are reporting recent or imminent job cuts thanks to the tariffs threat. Bob, why do you think it's taken a trade war with Donald Trump to prompt the political establishment to finally move in removing interprovincial trade barriers?
Well, I think they see what the outcomes could be, and that the time has come for us to start being more independent of the U.S. So these pipelines need to be built both east and west. We need to take down trade barriers and move product from province to province to province. And this is the only way we're going to survive, because we got 4 more years of this nut bar throwing tariffs out every day. And it's not a way to run our country or our economy. So it's time for us to open up our country and start taking care of each other.
Darren, what do you think comes of trade with the U.S. if, in fact, interprovincial barriers are removed, more of our trade moves east and west, and Canadian businesses build out new markets abroad?
Well, first off, I'm glad that it was Bob who gave us the first nut bar reference instead of me. But, you know, every province loves to have its own little fiefdom and their own control over things. But some of these barriers go back years or even decades. So the great thing is that while I think most economists would agree that there will be significant short-term pain, I think they also see, and a lot of businesses see this, that there's a long-term gain that could be absolutely enormous, not least of which is that Canada would reduce its reliance on the U.S. I think a lot of what you're hearing from politicians, from business leaders is, oh, geez, we've relied on the U.S. for so long that maybe that's not such a wise idea. You know, the old adage, don't put all your eggs in one basket, I think is really is really showing its true colors here today. So I think the country will be much better off in the long run by cutting that anchor, or at least pulling it off the bottom a bit so it can keep moving forward.
All right, time for us to take a bit of a break. But when we come back, reviving Joe Canadian and a temporary rebrand in the name of hockey glory. More from our Primetime This Week panel in a moment. Welcome back. We spoke earlier of economic patriotism, now to a patriotic encore that follows in some famous footsteps.
I have a prime minister, not a president. I speak English and French, not American, and I pronounce it about, not a boot. I can proudly sew my country's flag on my backpack.
Believe it or not, it was 25 years ago, this iconic I Am Canadian Molson's commercial filled TV screens across the country. Now, actor Jeff Douglas is back during this sudden moment of national unity.
They think they can bully us, threaten us, and push us around, but they do not know us. That artificially drawn line they keep talking about, not artificial, and it's not on a map. It's right here.
We Are Canadian is racking up the views on YouTube and striking a chord with more than just the Prime Minister.
Makes you feel proud, right? It highlights all of the things that are unique to Canada.
Time to drop the gloves, pull off the jersey, go at it.
My name is Jeff, and we are Canadian.
The video is not a commercial, not tied to any products. Darren, what do you make of the chest thumping? How far does this video go to defying the stereotype that we Canadians are modest and polite?
Well, you know what? I love it. And I love the response, the very Canadian response of dropping the gloves, pulling the sweater over the head and going at it. You know, there's a difference between being brash braggarts and being assertive about this country's amazing accomplishments. And I think if nothing else, I hope it makes people stop and reflect on all of the great things that we do have and all the great accomplishments that we have made. And that cheesy poutine is in fact much better than a cheesy Putin. I mean, I think it's a great reminder of the subtle strength Canada does have, and it's something that quite often us citizens overlook.
That was a good one. Bob, the video runs, I think it's about a minute 43, minute 45, something like that. It's already generated hundreds of thousands of views. I'm sure that will climb to millions. How do you see this fueling further Canadian patriotism?
I think it's great, and it's reaching the right audience, which is the younger people. I hope they bring back that other one where they sweatered the guy in the office and bet him a few. But I think it's great, like especially if you put it out on the digital and mainstream media and just get it going, and hopefully this reaches the next generation, because I think our generation and you younger folks there are probably okay. We're all very patriotic, but it's time to wake up everybody.
Darren, a potential alternative, maybe play it at the hockey games as a way of skipping the booing of anthems?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, aside from the sheer entertainment value, and you know what? I got goosebumps watching it. But the thing is, it's a more positive tone than booing, and it really focuses on how great Canada is and less on how bad the U.S. is.
All right. One more topic. That is a temporary extension on a move proving popular with hockey fans, especially in Edmonton after Connor McDavid scored the overtime goal to clinch the Four Nations face-off. Two McDonald's were renamed after the Oilers captain, one in the Alberta capital, one in his hometown of Newmarket, Ontario. Edmonton's McDavid's was to have returned to normal today.
We're from Montreal.
And why are you here?
We're here for family and to watch the game.
Well, everybody knows him, right? Everybody was supporting the guy. He made us very proud. So we wanted to pass by and see him.
Yeah, the rebrand was only supposed to last a week, but it has been extended until Sunday because, guess why? Popularity. It's a great move. Great move. Bob, the PR expert now, this was originally planned to align with an Oilers Stanley Cup win in 2024, but it of course had to be abandoned because they lost to the Panthers in Game 7. But what do you make of bringing the idea back thanks to the huge win over the U.S.?
Well, it's brilliant marketing. It's so easy. It's just automatic. And, I probably wouldn't go eat there, but I might go get a photo there and talk about it. I think it's great. It's really good for the year for Edmonton and for the province, because I actually cheered for McDavid for the first time ever when he scored that goal. It was amazing. So it brings us all together. It's a fun thing.
Darren, this is at a McDonald's along Calgary Trail in Edmonton. But how do you think such a change would go over at an actual Calgary location?
I'm sure there are some Edmonton fans here in Calgary who would flock to those McDonald's. But for the rest of Calgarians, they'd be like, who?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Come on.
No, I mean,
it was a beautiful goal.
I think for the same reasons Bob pointed out, that, you know what, we would reluctantly go, just for the photo op, maybe the Instagram selfie. But, I think there's some Calgarians who'd be like, okay, we've had enough.
All right. Yeah. Enough of this topic. But we do have about 30 seconds each for winners and losers. So, Darren, how would you like to use your 30?
You know what? I think the winners this week have to be Canada's political leaders. We're all too familiar with the gaffes our politicians make all the time. And I think the way that this whole tariff situation has been handled, right from municipal leaders, right on up through federal leaders, has been spot on. The losers in all this are investors or stock market professionals. It's virtually impossible to predict where things are going, and like the whiplash of the on-again, off-again tariffs.
30 seconds. Bob, take us home.
All right, I'll go softer. The winners are all of us in Alberta this weekend, because it's going to be really warm and we can get outside and enjoy things and maybe forget about all this crap. And then the losers are Trump, Musk, and that other guy, whatever his name, Vance. Those are like my ultimate losers. I can't imagine. So that's it.
All right. On that note, we'll leave it there. Thank you both. Hope you have an awesome weekend.
Yeah,
You too,
Michael.
Michael.
Thanks.